The rain had finally stopped, but the city hadn't slowed down. Neon lights shimmered off the puddles, and I sat behind the wheel of my taxi, counting the minutes until my shift ended. It had been a long day, too many silent riders, too few tips, and far too many stories I'd never get to know. I was about to call it a night when my phone pinged with one last ride request, from a quiet neighborhood uptown to the hospital on the east side. I almost ignored it. But something in me said, take it. When I pulled up, a woman in her late 30s stood at the curb, clutching a small backpack to her chest. Her eyes were tired, but her smile, soft and uncertain, made her look like she was trying to be strong for someone else. "Thank you," she said as she slid into the back seat. Her voice trembled slightly, as if she'd been holding back tears for hours. "No problem," I replied, pulling away. "You okay back there?" She hesitated. "Yeah, just a long day." We drove in silence for a few minutes. The city lights blurred past the window, and in the rearview mirror, I saw her stare at them as if they were memories instead of buildings. After a while, she asked, "Do you ever think about how life keeps moving, even when yours feels stuck?" I wasn't expecting that. Most passengers were buried in their phones. "All the time," I said. "But maybe that's the point, it keeps moving so we remember we can too." She smiled faintly, eyes still fixed on the window. "That's beautiful." We talked after that. About everything. About her favorite coffee shop that closed during the pandemic. About how she used to paint sunsets because, in her words, they were the only things that ended beautifully. When I asked why she was headed to the hospital, her tone softened. "My daughter's there," she said quietly. "Leukemia. She's 8. The air inside the car changed instantly. My chest tightened. I'm so sorry." She nodded. "They called tonight. Said she wants to see me. Said she doesn't want to sleep until I get there." I pressed the gas a little harder, trying not to let her see the emotion building in my eyes. But halfway through the drive, the traffic lights betrayed us, a sea of red stretched ahead. It was one of those Friday night jams that could last an eternity. She leaned forward, anxious. "I need to get there soon," she whispered. "She gets scared when I'm late." Without thinking, I switched routes, cut through narrow alleys, took corners sharper than usual. She didn't protest, she just watched quietly, clutching that backpack like it was her heartbeat. We were almost at the hospital when she said softly, "You drive like someone who's trying to make up for lost time." I chuckled. Maybe I am. And then, just as the hospital lights came into view through the drizzle, she whispered, almost to herself, "I don't want this ride to end." I glanced at her in the mirror. Her eyes were glistening, but she was smiling. "Why's that?" I asked gently. "Because for the first time in months," she said, "I felt normal. Not a mother racing against time. Just a woman talking to someone who listened." For a moment, the noise of the city disappeared. It was just us, two strangers in a car, both realizing that kindness didn't need a reason. When we reached the hospital, she took out some cash. I shook my head. "No, this one's on me." She tried to insist, but I held firm. "Go see your daughter. That's all the payment I need." Her eyes softened. "You're a good man," she said quietly. "Thank you, for the ride and for the silence that felt like understanding." She opened the door, then paused. "Can I ask your name?" "Adam," I said. "Thank you, Adam." And then she was gone, disappearing through the sliding doors under the hospital's pale glow. I sat there for a long time, engine idling, staring at the empty seat where she'd been. I didn't know her story in full, but somehow, it had filled the empty spaces in mine. A week later, as I waited for another fare, a message popped up on my driver app. To Adam, the driver who reminded me that there's still kindness in the world. My daughter smiled again that night. Thank you. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long while: hope. Moral: sometimes, the simplest acts, listening, caring, being present, can become the turning point in someone's storm. Because in a world that moves too fast, a little kindness can make someone wish the ride never had to end.